Hi, and welcome to another episode with Sage Holistic Health and Wellness Center. I am Emily Salas, your host, and I'm excited to be spending some more time with you. Today's show, I interviewed Nanas Kashefi, who is an attorney, writer, and also the founder of Revealing Grace, which is a site and a podcast dedicated to promoting spiritual growth and harmony in day-to-day life. She also owns a retreat center in Lake Arrowhead, California, which hosts and is available for yoga, meditation, therapeutic, and writing retreats. So have a listen. You're definitely going to enjoy this story. Sage is a 501c3 nonprofit organization building community by providing education and counseling about physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. We encourage all of our listeners to find their own path to what holistic wellness means to you. So hi, and welcome to another episode of Sage Holistic Health and Wellness Center show. I have with me today Nanas Kashefi. How you doing?
Good.
Good. So glad to have you here.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy to be here.
Yeah, so today, just wanted to start off by sharing a little story. It was kind of neat how Nanas and I reconnected. Strangely enough, we went to high school together, which feels like so long ago, but we had lost contact and then found out that we were both living in California. And I saw on social media that she posted one day this picture of her holding a set of keys and saying that she had just bought this new retreat location in Arrowhead Pines. And so I reached out to her because here at Sage we're wanting to do some holistic retreats coming up next year. And it was just an amazing kind of connection that we had. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about what you're doing and kind of who you are a little bit, and just share a little bit about Arrowhead Pines too.
Yeah, so I bought the place in Lake Arrowhead exactly a year ago.
That's so nuts.
Yeah,
Today.
it is nuts. And it just sort of happened serendipitously. We grew up in the mountains, and I was looking for a mountain home to retreat to personally, and also to have people be able to go to sort of get away and reconnect with themselves. And I always found that I connect in nature, so I wanted to be somewhere that is peaceful and tranquil, and a location where people can gather, because I was going through a divorce a few years ago, and I would seek out a place, whether it was a retreat or a meditation center, or I did it through writing as well, where I could reconnect with myself and feel like I could get my bearings again, because there was so much chaos around me.
Right.
And so that was the intention. And I found this place. It was the second home I saw up there. And I just walked in, and I knew that it was the right spot. I felt a connection to the home. We remodeled it, and it is, furnished and ready to go. It has a huge living space, which is amenable to yoga and meditation. And I'm excited to get it going and hopefully get you guys up there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I was so lucky to be able to get up there and take a look at the location with you and a couple other people and Danielle, and it was just so gorgeous, and I just fell in love with the place, and everything, the heart and soul that you poured into it is just awesome, and very excited to get up there. I definitely see Sage doing a retreat up there soon.
I would love to have you.
So, but yeah, and I think what you're talking about is really just so awesome, to be able to go to nature, to be able to connect, and to get what you need to be able to heal and to be able to move forward in life. It sounds like, I remember you telling me before about how you'd been to several different retreats, and that had just been such a source for you to get into that healing space and to grow and change into where you wanted to be and where you are today.
Yeah, because I think whether we're conscious of it or not, we all kind of want to go inward. And I think these places offer that opportunity to do that. And at least they have for me. And so I wanted to offer that for others, because for me, I was going through a really hard time, and that was an opportunity for me to have a sense of okayness. And that was from being in a tranquil, peaceful place where everything sort of felt okay, and allow me to become quiet inside and reconnect with myself, whether it was through meditation or through yoga or through creative writing. These places I feel are conducive to that. And it's also, I think, good to get away from your comfort zone.
Right.
Even though these are comfortable places, I think it kind of allows you to take a breath. And that is really my intention.
So what do you think gets you out of your comfort zone in those types of environments the most? Would you say, is it the people, or is it the activities, or for you and your experience? I'm curious.
I think everyone that comes to these, in my experience, everyone that has come to these places comes because they're longing for something, right? So whether they're longing for the peace and quiet, or they're longing to reconnect with themselves, or they're longing to reconnect with a greater power, or get a source of energy back flowing through them, it's just a longing. And I think we all as humans have that. And so, you know, it kind of feels weird. You know, I've walked into so many retreats and I kind of feel weird. And I think, what am I doing here? Who are these people? How am I, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of coming out of your normal shell is also, it's an opportunity, it's courageous. And I've never had a situation like that where it hasn't been rewarding, because you do have to step out of all the noise. And, the noise can be comfortable. Your day-to-day routine, your relationship, even if it's dysfunctional or it's not fulfilling to you, it's also comfortable. And so when you step out of that is where I've found where you sort of have a moment of clarity as to, okay, wait a minute. Now I'm removed and I can see this situation from a different perspective. Is it serving me? Is it fulfilling? Is it giving me peace?
Right, and like you said, getting quiet is the thing that really helped you, and I think that helps most people to be able to propel themselves toward that change that they're seeking. Because like the longing, they're longing for something to be different than what it already is.
Yeah, and it's and you don't really know what it is until you get quiet. You're searching. People are always searching jobs, partners, different places to live, new adventures. Everyone's searching, but you don't know what you're searching for because you haven't really gotten quiet with yourself to listen to your heart. Because I feel like the mind is running.
Right.
And that's habitual. And I think that's the whole intention of meditation practice, is that if you quiet the mind, then you can really reconnect to your source, and hear what it is that your soul or your spirit or whatever you want to call it is longing for. And so you have to turn that off, and you have to get out of that routine sometimes to be able to connect. And I think a lot of people sort of have misperception about what meditation is. And for me, it's always been, okay, there's too much noise. There's too much distraction. I'm not connected to myself. And I need to go somewhere and quiet it down. And not to say that you can't do that outside of a retreat. You could do that every day in your own space. But sometimes you just need a little start, and you need a group of people that have the same intention, and you support each other, and there's an energy there that's kind of unique, and that energy feeds and fuels and supports. I feel like it's the universe sort of taking you where you need to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful experience, and I just love that part of your story, that you've had that experience time and time again that has continued to just bring you back to who you are and get you kind of course corrected or whatever you're needing to do to kind of shift and change to where you've been wanting to go. And what a beautiful thing that you are giving back to the universe by creating this space that is just phenomenal. I mean, it's so beautiful up there and just
It
magical.
is. It is. And I wanted to make it feel very peaceful and calm.
And it does, yeah.
Because
It
I know a
absolutely
lot of
does.
people find their way to these kind of places when they're going through something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you just need to reconnect. You know,
Yeah.
you just need to reconnect, or you need to refresh, restart, whatever it is that you're looking for. I find that if you're in an environment that is welcoming and warm and
Mhm.
comfortable, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and nature, I mean, in and of itself, for me, and I think for a lot of people,
Uh-huh.
sort of gives you a different perspective.
No, yeah. I mean, it just grounds you. You
Right?
get out there and you're just grounded. And so, like you said, kind of you and I growing up in the mountains
Yeah.
and like then being here, the mountains are close, but not super close. But
Right.
I mean, your place is only, what, an hour
An
away?
hour and a half.
Yeah, hour
An
and a
hour and a
half.
half, yeah.
So that's so nice to be able to get up there and just get connected, literally. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think today what I wanted to talk about with you, or just kind of have this conversation about, is this place that you went through in your life, you know, where there was just kind of this, I don't know if you want to call it dark night of the soul, or if you want to just call
Yeah.
it this time of change or kind of shifting or movement for you, where you had to make some big changes, but really kind of the trifecta of the creativity and just the healing that you went through, and then also spirituality, you know, that you kind of, and maybe you would sum it up in a
Yeah.
different way, but it sounds like you just had this really neat experience where it kind of brought you to this place where you are now, where you're just following your heart and you're just doing some really amazing things. I want you to share about your podcast and you know what you have going on too.
It was exactly what you said. I mean, it was dark. It was a
Mhm.
dark place. I was in the last couple of years, I was very depressed.
Mhm.
I had gained a lot of weight. I was unhappy. It was hard to get out of bed.
So hard.
It was really hard. And, you know, I think I don't know how you get somewhere, but I think that it all, in the big scheme of things, it happens for a reason. And I think the reason for me personally is that
Mhm.
I was completely disconnected to my spirit, from my spirit. I was chasing a path that I thought I should be on. There was a lot of shoulds involved. I thought, you know, I should be married, I should be living in a certain place, I should have a certain home, I should have a certain lifestyle.
Mhm.
It was all sort of outward appearance, or goals that were sort of imposed from the outside.
Mhm. Makes
And
sense.
so I was chasing, I was for a long time, I was trying to do the right thing,
Mhm.
as I perceived others wanted me to, not really connected to who I was or what I wanted to do.
Right.
So there was a huge disconnect.
Mhm.
And I had always grown up with a sense of my inner spirit and
Mhm.
a greater spirit. From a very young age, I just felt it inside me,
Mhm.
but I really didn't know how to connect to it as an
Mhm.
adult, or in a sort of ongoing conversation, so to
Mhm.
speak. And so there was a disconnect there. And there was also, you know, a disconnect with your body. If you're not happy with yourself, you're not taking care of your body, you're not nurturing yourself.
Mhm.
So it was a dark time for a couple of years, and it took a lot of courage to sort of upturn everything.
Wow.
You know, because from the outside it looked very nice.
Mhm.
My life did, and even when I was expressing unhappiness or a desire to get a divorce, people were surprised.
Mhm.
They couldn't understand, considering the persona that I have.
Mhm.
And so I decided that I was just going to take a leap of faith and sort of take care of my needs, whether they were spiritual, creative,
Mhm.
or physical, first, which I had never done in my life.
Mm.
Uh,
Wow.
I'd grown up in a way where I was, you know, your family came first. There was a lot of sacrifice that we had to make to immigrate, and then as I got older, it was making sure that, you know, you do the right thing by everyone else's standards, right?
Mhm.
And so there was never a time to reconnect. So
Yeah.
So I took a turn, and I, left that life, and it was very difficult, but it was also, I learned through my own therapist at the time from following the divorce, that if you don't have a breakdown, you don't have a breakthrough, right? So that's like, that is in my head always.
Yeah.
That I had to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And the breakthrough was that I had to make sure that I remained connected to my spirit, my body, my soul, always, in order not to go down that path again. Because a lot of us, as we're trying to be good, whatever that means, or be please take care of other people, that we forget that. So that's where it came in, that I had to consciously make an effort to have spirituality and health as a priority. And I found my way towards meditation. And I found my way towards yoga. And so that became, it's a discipline. It really is. Meditation isn't all, hippy-dippy, sit on it. It's a discipline. It's like exercising. It's like eating healthy. You have to force yourself to sit down and breathe and quiet your mind every day so you can remain connected. Especially when it's hard, especially when you are having a breakdown.
That's when you need it the most, which is also the
sorry,
hardest.
I don't even know if I answered your question. I kind of went on a path.
No, that's what this is all about, is being able, that's wonderful to hear, like the things that started to turn you towards that. It sounds like you reached for meditation, or you reached for doing yoga, or just trying to get outside of
because I realized I did, because all the comforts that I had, the nice home in Newport, the nice car, the nice job, the shopping, all those things, the food, the wine, the parties, those weren't fulfilling my spirit. Those weren't connecting me to that longing, that sense of groundedness and connection to a bigger power. Those were not fueling that. And so
how did you, if I can interrupt you, like how did you come to that place where you realized that, like that was it the breakdown for the breakthrough, or where did you realize like that those things were not fulfilling you?
I think I realized it was the breakdown, because I wasn't fulfilled, right? I had all those things, and I was empty and sad.
So the feelings of depression, like you were saying, not being able to get out of bed, or
I thought,
just feeling really unhappy,
right?
Even though you're doing all these things,
you're doing all these
happy.
things that on the outside to everyone would seem, well, you have things, right? But internally, you have no connection to yourself or your spirit, and no peace of mind. And so that's when the realization set in. I don't want any of these things. I left really with nothing except my clothes and my personal belongings. And
your relationship, you mean?
Yeah, I left the marriage, and I went into an apartment, and I, read every book that I could, because I was searching. I didn't know what the answer was, but I knew all the things that I thought were the answer were not working for me.
Yeah. Are there any books that stand out to you for that time?
Yeah, a few actually. Pema Chodron is a favorite of mine. When Things Fall Apart is a great book for anyone going through anything, not just divorce. Tara Brach is a favorite. Tara Brach's book really opened my eyes. But the thing with these books is, I feel like books find you when you're ready for them.
Yeah.
So I remember my aunt got me that Tara Brach book years before, and I just wasn't ready for it. Another book that, it's funny at the time, Wild. That book sort of made me open my eyes to my own self.
Like treasures, like these little books.
They're great books. So, I was reading all those books. I was also reading books about relationships, because I didn't grow up in a great example of a relationship with my parents, and I didn't have one, so I didn't know what relationships are supposed to look like. So I was just hungry for learning,
which is true for a lot of us too. I think a lot of us don't
Yeah.
have those relationships modeled for us.
Exactly.
So.
And so I wanted to get to a point where I was whole,
Mhm.
and the things that really would fuel me,
Mhm.
my spirit and my soul, were there. So
Mhm.
the meditation practice became religious. Reading the books, Thich Nhat Hanh,
Yeah.
You Are Here.
Mhm.
That's an excellent book that sort of light bulbs went off.
Mhm.
But it was also in conjunction with daily meditation and yoga and eating well and being conscious of my eating habits and all those things. So it was just sort of this few years of, laser focused on what do you need, what is lacking, how can I sort of fill you up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just hear this beautiful, like, coming together of, I mean, this despair you were in, that's not the
Yeah.
beautiful part, right?
No.
That's the ugly and difficult and
But there is some
hard
beauty
part.
in it.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you see as the beauty in
Well,
that?
I mean, it's just exactly what Thich Nhat Hanh says in his book. If you don't have the fertilizer
Mm-hmm.
and the dirt, and you don't have the flower,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that and so I wouldn't have had that.
Right.
I wouldn't have had this awakening if I wasn't so deep in that despair.
Right.
Right? So I can't say I used to get so annoyed with people when I was married because I was so unhappy, and people would say, I have no regrets, and I have no regret, and I thought, how is that possible? Right? I mean, how do you not have any regrets? I was thinking so many things. I regret this, I regret that. But then now I'm learning, because of my spiritual practice, that I don't have regrets, because these things, if they had not happened, they
Right.
would lead me down this path.
Right.
So I can't say that there is some beauty. I don't wish it on anybody.
Right. But you
there
can't
is-
cherry pick, right?
Right.
You can't say, I want this, but I'm not going to have this hard time that's going to get me there.
Right.
Right.
And there's no way that my eyes would be open to that had I
Mhm.
not been so deep down and desperate for it.
Mm-hmm. Right, so you had that really dark time,
Yeah,
a really difficult time where
absolutely.
you really had to get to work. It sounds like you really worked hard for what you have now.
Yeah, I
with
mean, it
this
was
new
hard just getting out of bed.
understanding. Yeah.
Really, just
Yeah.
getting out of bed and taking a shower
Mm-hmm.
was, a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
To be stuck in that place, and it's like you just are there for however long, and it's hard to see outside of that space. And so I think that's why I was asking you that question of how to move from that space to, like, what gave you that energy or that boost to start seeking. I mean, fertile ground, like you said. Maybe it was just
Yeah.
the time. You had been in that place long enough, and you got to a different place.
I prayed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've always prayed as a child.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up in a religious home, but my mother was very spiritual and my grandfather was very spiritual. And so I prayed from a very young age, and I always felt there was a place I could go to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I remember that last year where it was the darkest, where I would just go home every night, or I'd go to bed every night and just say, please help me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a simple prayer.
Yeah.
Please help me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think after a while, there was a spiritual force that entered and helped me have the courage to get out. So
Mhm.
I don't have a formula. I think for everyone it's different.
Sure.
For me, it was
Absolutely.
prayer.
Yeah.
And so I asked for help every night just to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that eventually I was led in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was through prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I hear in that even it's that hope that was there. It was somewhere buried in there, that hope to
Exactly.
be able to say those words even was you
Yeah.
expressing hope into the universe or into the world and just wanting to have that in your life.
Absolutely.
That's really, that's really powerful.
It was, and it was hard, because especially for women, there are certain times where you feel like you're getting older and there's a lot of fear associated with what will happen to me. I'm going to be by myself. And I felt like with the prayer also came an answer that you're going to be okay. You know?
Gosh, what relief to have experienced that.
Yeah. And it was. And I honestly can say that was the only thing that moved me. It's as if you get a hand.
Yeah.
And you don't know where you're going or where it's coming from, but you just trust it innately. And I think that's what it was for me.
And then as you progressed on that path, it sounds like the quieter you got, the more that kind of just showed up for you and took you into these new places that you've gotten to. And part of that, I think in your story is this creative arts piece, and I'm curious how that kind of plays into, or maybe you could kind of share that with our listeners about how that played into your path, into your spirituality, into your kind of pulling yourself up out of that space.
Yeah, for me, it's a form of connecting to whatever that source is. So, and I've always written. I've been a writer. I've written on and off since I was very young, and I've liked creative writing. And I decided to go back to school, and I joined NYU's creative writing program. I was accepted into NYU's creative writing program, their Master of Fine Arts program in Paris.
So
it was pretty
experience.
cool. I miss it so much. But it's a low residency program, so you go to Paris every 6 months for intensive residencies. NYU has a campus there. And so for me, I read my poems now. So I was in the poetry program. I'm a poet. And so I would go and I would write. You know, when I get sort of frustrated or overwhelmed, writing is my outlet. That is my outlet. And so is a physical activity. Those are two things where I've learned about myself. And I think everyone has their own outlet. Some people like to clean. I mean, I don't know. Everyone has sort of something. And for me, it was my way of making sense and releasing the fear, the anxiety, the tension, whatever it was through writing.
You'd be able to do that process through writing. Yeah, that's neat.
And it's also a soul searching for me because a lot of my poems are sort of questions. You know, questions as to what is this that I'm feeling? What is this that I'm experiencing?
Yeah.
And so it's an outlet for me. And when I'm most emotional is where really the writing gets good. And it's sad, but that's, you know, it's a way of shifting energy, I think.
And releasing it, like you said. But I think there's something neat about giving yourself permission to ask those questions where I wonder or I'm curious about that, you know, that release or that build up and then the release that happens is you allowing yourself to ask these questions that everybody has. We just can't give ourselves that edge to be able to do it, because if we ask questions sometimes we think we don't know what we need to know, or
and sometimes it's dark. I mean, I wrote back at some of those poems and I laugh now because I think, wow, you poor thing. This was so but you know, you don't have to share it with anybody.
Right, it's your own process.
It's for you.
And it's cathartic too, you know, to just get that out and then to see all the growth that you've had.
Or just your free writing.
So,
you know, sometimes people say, well, I'm not a writer. You don't have to be a writer. You know, this is the whole point of free writing exercises that a lot of these retreats do is just to release whatever you're carrying so it's not weighing you down. And it doesn't have to be creative or beautiful or poetic, but it's just a matter of just getting it out. And then once you get it out, you're better able to see it and make sense of it. You have a different perspective. Because I feel like sometimes when you're heavy is when you're containing all of this emotion that you really need to release in order to make sense of. Or just to free yourself of. And so sometimes it's just like you said, it's so cathartic. And you know, sometimes you don't even know that it's cathartic. It's sort of unconscious that it's happening. Right? You write and you're like, what am I doing? But just don't think about it.
And then you have that experience, you know, the experience of doing that is where you can then check in and say later, I do feel lighter. Not that you even knew what you
Exactly.
were doing, but it's you get to check in with yourself and have
Yeah.
that lived experience of what that does for you. Like you said, even if you're not a writer, to
Yeah.
just try something different and see. That's
See
really
if it's a
neat.
way of having that release.
Mm-hmm. Making
know?
room for new stuff.
Yeah, and perhaps getting perspective on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
because
yeah.
sometimes your things come out, like you said earlier, you don't even know what
Mhm.
this is or what it means,
Mm-hmm.
but you're trying to understand yourself,
Right.
really, which is all that this whole
Mm-hmm.
process has been for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard that spirituality or soul searching, that there's kind of that thread through your story, through
Yeah.
all of this, and
It's
you've said that
always-
it's been since you were a young child too, and
Yeah.
it must mean so much to you to reconnect with that part of yourself and to just be living in this place that you are now.
It is, but it's, I don't want people to think that it's all roses and nice now. I think it's an ongoing practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's still questions, there's still struggles,
Mhm.
I still struggle with it. And there's
Mhm.
moments where you question your faith and things happen because that's how life is. It just continues.
Right.
And so I think that it's sort of a way to self-soothe
Mm-hmm.
and also to remember that it's like anything else, it's a discipline.
Right.
And
Yeah, that you have to work at it. It's not a place that you
Yeah.
arrive necessarily,
Exactly.
like what you're saying.
Because
yeah.
if I stop, I will tell you, if I stop meditating, if I stop writing, I will be down. I
Mhm.
will be, I'll find myself that I'm sort of lethargic or I'm
Mhm.
heavy, So it's like anything else. It's a practice.
Mhm. Nurturing yourself, really
Exactly.
taking care of you.
And it has to be a priority,
Mm-hmm.
Because I still have that fear. Oh my gosh, I don't want to go down that path again. I need to make sure
Yeah.
that I'm connected.
Right, and I mean that kind of goes back to the beginning of your story too, where you were saying that was one of the epiphanies that you had, is that you needed to start taking care of you. That
Yeah.
was part of what kind of started to shift you, and I think sometimes people have a hard time with that, thinking if I take care of me, that's selfish. Especially
Mhm.
growing up in an environment where,
Mhm.
and as women or whatever
Mhm.
culture that we all have this like taking care of other people.
Yeah.
And we can use the term codependency, these types of like giving and
I come from a whole line of sacrificial lambs, is where I come from. So, and it's becoming mindful of that because we
Oh.
carry that on.
Yeah.
My grandmothers, my goodness. And there's a reason, I mean, I hate to say this, but there's a reason why they passed years before their husbands did,
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I have to consciously be aware of that
Mhm.
because you're carrying on generations.
Mm-hmm. The generational.
Yes. And
Give back.
it's not selfish
Uh-huh.
because you are unable to take care of anybody
Yeah.
if you're not whole.
Right.
I could not have been a good wife to my ex-husband because I was so empty inside.
Mm.
Right? So it's like anything else. It has to be healthy.
Mhm.
You have to be healthy
Mm-hmm.
in order to create a healthy environment. And that environment contains other people. So it's not there's this negative connotation with selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's not accurate.
Right, that's what I was want to talk about, like to
Yeah.
dispel that, because I think it's actually quite a selfless thing to
Yes.
take care of yourself, right?
Yes.
Because in doing so, you become alive and vibrant and
Yes.
flourishing, and then you're able to engage in these more meaningful and life-giving relationships with others, which is, it really is about our relationships with other people that make life
100%.
rich and wonderful. So, but it is hard,
100%.
and there's so much to that. But I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your podcast, since we are kind of on that
Yeah.
topic of spirituality and what it is that you have started with your project. I think it's super exciting to hear about that and what
Yes.
what you've got going on with that.
Well, I'm trying to get my bearings, but it's called Revealing Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And the intention behind the podcast is to sort of reveal the spirit in everybody
Mm-hmm.
and reveal how every human being in my mind has the potential and the capacity for extraordinary grace and strength and resilience. And so, I think a lot of times I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I listen to, Oprah's podcast, and she brings great people,
Oh, yeah.
On her podcast, but they're sort of known writers or very successful individuals or entrepreneurs or high level spiritual leaders. But I think that same grace that they talk about and they exhibit, people are doing it day to day. Normal average people are, in light of extraordinary difficulties or trials in their lives. And so my intention was just to talk to my people I know, really my friends, and see how they overcame and how their experiences were shaped by sort of rising above.
So I love that, though. What you're doing is trying to connect and make a community of people who have this like-mindedness around spirituality and how meaningful it's been in their lives, and being able to share that story with others, because that gives other people this courage, to kind of step into it.
It's exactly
and it's
what
wonderful.
it is.
And
it's courage and it's inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
because
beautiful.
we're all going through difficulties.
Yeah.
Why not talk about them?
Right. And if we're not in it right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not to be a
Because when
doomsday,
you're
but
in
it's
that
around
dark-
the corner,
Well,
right?
Yeah, and
Life
when you're
is,
in that dark
yeah.
place, it feels very lonely.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the intention behind not just the retreats, is you're not alone.
Right.
Everyone goes through these things.
Right.
This is the human experience. It's a shared experience. And it's the intention with the podcast. Look at all these people that are around you that you don't even know what they're experiencing. It's a way to connect.
Right. And I love that it doesn't have to be big names either. You
Yeah.
know, that people that have done this or that, it's just, it is all of us, and it's
is.
the shared human experience. So
Yeah.
wonderful. So good
Thank
things
you.
coming up. Look for Nanasa's podcast, Revealing Grace,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
and,
Revealing Grace.
Yeah, and then looking forward to getting some Sage Holistic Health and Wellness people up there
I
to
would
do a
love that.
retreat. So
I would love that. And you can
Yeah.
follow our Instagram at Revealing Grace.
yes.
The
Oh yeah,
handle.
that's right.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
forget
name.
to promote the
That's
Instagram.
great. Yes, at Revealing Grace. So thank you so much for being here today
Thank you for
and
having
chatting
me.
with me, and it's been really wonderful. Thank you for spending some of your time today with us at Sage Holistic Health and Wellness Center. If you like what we're all about, please consider supporting our nonprofit organization by making a tax-deductible donation. To do this, you can go to our website at www.sagewellnessctr.org and click on Donate in the upper right-hand corner. We look forward to spending some time again with you real soon. Take good care.